Good evening. Inspired with creating a new video from the soul's perspective of graduating from this 3D realm. So I like to share this from the soul's perspective of what a soul is and from my own experience of what got me into this. The way it was explained to me many years ago, we live here in this 3D realm, and if you can imagine with having a clear mind and an open mind, the universe is massive. That's not just the universe, has many other parts to it. We live in this physical realm right here. The universe in itself operates in the 5D, which is in a higher frequency and a higher consciousness. So if you can imagine what we're in, this meat suit, this physical animal suit, when we show up here, we're landing and splashing in this 3D. Now, for the last, say, 12 years, the game's changed. Mother Gaia on this planet is still in the 3D physically. However, it's been elevated recently for the last 12 years in the 5D. So, when the soul decides to come here, when the soul splashes here and says, I'd like for the volunteer to show up, in this case it was me, and for the other 8 billion people that show up, when we show up here, none of us, myself included, are here on a picnic. So when we show up here in this 3D world, I thought at one point it was growing up. You have the top marks, you get the best marks in school, become the best person, or whatever you can be, whatever you can aspire with being. In my case, I pushed with being as a commercial pilot. I attained it, I did it through the School of Rough Knocks. And this is where the soul stepped in. The soul is a massive body of energy. Keep it in simplistic terms of this. When the soul decides to show up here into this physical realm, when it decides to come here, it doesn't physically come here, but it has an ambassador. So myself and for everyone else here, we all are the ambassador for the soul. The soul, there's many different dimensions. This is technically one of the lowest. This is the lowest on the bottom of the barrel here. So when we show up here, it is a beautiful place. Mother Gaia is a beautiful place. What makes us as a very tough school ground, if you can imagine, there's the good forces and there's negative forces. There's light positive beings and there's dark or evil type beings. And when the soul decides to come here, it has a very clear understanding. I emphasize very for a very particular reason. I found out that this is definitely not my first lifetime showing up here. So I've been here many times. I got very lucky after surviving several near-death experiences. When the one that stood out there is the universe gave me the ultimatum. So I said, thank you for the 3D experiences. The 3D experiences, whatever you can think of. Anger, hate, war, guilt, shame, and the soul does not discriminate whether somebody is being born in the West, someone's born in Africa, if someone's born in South America or in Asia, or whether it's the east side of or the west side of Europe, the east side of Europe. Myself was born in Canada with parents that immigrated from Western Europe. The soul, wherever it's going, and I say this openly because I had many other past lifetimes where I was in Africa, Northern Africa. I even had an experience in Italy and many other parts. And every time that I showed up here, the job never got done. So what does that exactly mean? The soul, when it's asking, what I mentioned earlier, is the soul graduate from this 3D consciousness. It's not the soul itself, it was me. So I volunteered on behalf of the soul to show up. So I said, soul, I will show up here. So it's the soul that's keeping me alive here. That's a key ingredient. And I said yes to it. So I own 50% of the contract. The soul also has 50% of the contract. The soul is watching with whatever I'm doing here. And I mentioned earlier that in this physical realm, and thank goodness for the last several years, has been a massive and a colossal cleanup of the evil or the dark influence here. The first lifetime that I showed up here, things, instead of going in the positive way, I wound up going sideways somewhere else, and This is where I got caught in the loop. So caught in the loop is for all the things, for all that, this 3D nonsense. Things like greed, lust, pride's a nasty one. Pride's a really, really nasty one. Abuse of power, which is something I had to deal with. Authoritarianism was something else I had to go through. And I say this openly, not to say of what I've gone through, but to educate others that when we're showing up here, none of us are here on a picnic. So when the soul says when we're showing up here, every time when I kept showing up here, the job never got done. So what does that mean? What is that implying? There's a binding contract, a soul contract, that when we show up here, when I show up here and everybody else, there's a soul involved that keeps us alive. It's a massive entity, a massive, a collective warehouse of a lot of information, super advanced, super wise, with a lot of insight. It's ancient, depending on the type of soul here. So when I show up here and I think I'm old, my body may be young, it's the energy behind me, well, it's massive. So in order to graduate here, I had to go through the school of rough knocks. And now the soul is saying, I've experienced this physical realm, this 3D realm, and some of the tough feelings were sadness, anger, guilt. Guilt was a nasty one. And without barely saying anything for many years. And this is all right here in the throat chakra. So the throat, when I had, at one point, it wasn't with not talking, it simply was, I had either it was a fear of it, or I had a childhood experience where I didn't express things properly. And it was a tough one, because if I was not able to articulate or express how things were going on, and I had done a really good job of masking it. So once I learned that, and I had to overcome that, so it got me sick at one point. So then I started getting educated on many things, and the key ingredient is that when I showed up here like everybody else, the soul's asking, Stephan, you had your human experience. You went through it. Now the ingredient is there's no judgment, there's no blame for whatever happened from childhood. At one point I had to take ownership of every other area of my life. And the big one, what's here in the heart, and the real big one is what's in here. This is simply a computer in the back of the brain, or the subconscious. And I'm sharing with you that with the new 5D, the fifth dimension energy, you can literally strip out all the old programming. You can unplug all of it, and it takes work. It's not a joke with this. When we volunteer showing up here on behalf of the soul's saying, hey, soul's operating in a way, way higher frequency. It wants technically nothing to do with what's down here, because it realizes this is a mess down here. And technically in the universe, or this place here, this is a cesspool. Unfortunately, humanity's been stuck with many, many things, either with jealousy, anger, sadness I've mentioned, grief, and there's a lot of other juicy and low frequency energies. So the energy is a consciousness. So consciousness, what is this energy vibrating at? It's a no-brainer when a person is vibrating in love, joy, and peace, or smiling or beaming from ear to ear. That's an attainable goal, and that's a goal worthwhile pursuing, not like a university degree or some other piece of paper like myself there. It's the energy, because when we leave here, that energy stays with us and wherever we're going with this. So in order to elevate from this realm, what's most important is being able to cut all the emotional entanglements, particularly as the initial ingredients or the initial entanglements. The tough ones are with mom and dad, because they've been stuck, and their parents were stuck, and down the ancestry, down the entire line of it. So once I became aware of this, I made a firm decision. Said, I'm going to do whatever it takes here to unplug all this. So there's a physical side of us, and then there's an etherical part, what I call it a spiritual side. And once I made the decision, I became aware of where things were blocked. And for me, it was in the throat, then it was in the heart. And I had to go back inside of here in the subconscious, and I had to unplug all the mess. In the moment I went back to the initial experiences from childhood, I unplugged everything from the family, the culture, the religion, my own experiences, all from the bottom. Whatever was stacked up on top of it, all of it collapsed, because it was the bottom triggers from childhood that never got dealt with. Once I got dealt with, and once it was cleared out, I said, universe, thank you very much. Thank you, soul. And I'm placing all these cords, valves, and feelings and having them placed into the field with peace, compassion, universal love, and grace. Once that was done, then bit by bit I started redeeming myself back into the arms of the universe. So the things like shame, guilt, these are the nasty ones. There's sadness, there's desire, there's the grief, and there's several other feelings underneath all this. Apathy is another one, anger, pride. The moment we're able to get to that consciousness level of, say, of the 200 range at the level of courage, from there it's a place of neutrality, and technically once the deep work's done, then we're able to vibrate into the higher energy, into the higher consciousness, and there's a lot of growth with this. So what I'm sharing here is in order for myself here to grow and expand, and a nice way of saying it, was I flunking in life or was I succeeding in life? And not based on a report card or by somebody else's opinion of things. And the moment I came to terms with me, and the moment I made the decision for me that, hey, this is working and this is not working, I said, thank you very much, thank you for showing up. I'm willing to let this go, and I'm willing now with making a new decision, a new choice, and elevating from my own experiences. And there again, there's no judgment, there's no blame, whatever happened from the past. And the soul saying, in order to graduate from this realm, is to really massively cleaning up the old energetic mess. That old energetic mess, any of those emotional entanglements, if they're not properly dealt with at one point, I say that from my own experience, either I would have wound up in the hospital at one point, or like these many common medical terms. And the way I describe as a medical term, it's something that either emotionally on the inside was never dealt with, or it was simply swept underneath the rug. And I'm sharing this information because this information is coming out. It will continue to ramp up. And I trust in the right time that as people, being myself and with others, sharing this information, that we are not just as a human being, but we're as a human soul. And we volunteered to show up here and be the ambassador for the soul, saying, soul, thank you for the initial experiences. I did things at the time to the best of my ability. Whether it was a success or a train wreck, you can still change it while we're in this physical realm. That's the juicy part of it. That's the cool part. When we leave here, and if it's not dealt with, then guaranteed we're going to come right back here again. So if you want to close it, from the soul's perspective, is I had to take 100% responsibility. I had to go back inside. I had to say enough was enough. And I had to do the necessary shadow work, or all the low frequency entanglement messes. I had to go in there and I had to unplug it all. And then from there was a lot of tests from the universe. A lot of tests, not only from the universe, but from the soul, because the soul's saying, hey, the soul's invested a lot of time prior to me showing up here, and the soul does not wish to see this lifetime being wasted. Technically, well, I'll use myself as an example. I've been here hundreds of times, and every lifetime the job never got done, meaning it's done now. The emotional agreements, the tough ones, the stuff that nobody wants to talk about, or everyone sweeps underneath the rug, or what I had done, I said, enough's enough. And the moment I really went to town, I really decided enough's enough, and I went inside and cleaned everything out, and this is where I started to elevate my consciousness. And this is what the universe responds to very, very well. Very well. So where this is going is the energies of frequency, energy, and vibrations, and it's to flip it to the positive. I'd like to share that when a negative experience showing up, it's simply there as a reminder that it needs to be dealt with. And the moment you acknowledge it, you embrace it, say, thank you for showing up, what's the lesson behind it, and then simply through proper guided meditation, you can release it. And when it's released, and it has to be done to the core issue of it, not the surface type nonsense. If the surface type nonsense is only being touched with, it'll never deal with the issue here. So the moment, from the soul's perspective, when the lower 3D MS is properly excavated and it's got it out, the soul's saying, thank you very, very much. And this is where we started graduating, or I started graduating, and elevating back into the arms of the universe. And it's been a very, very wild and a succeeding ride with us. So something I simply wanted to share, a little longer than normal for this type of a short video. And I think I'll be having a couple more videos with this because there's simply so much involved with this. So till next time, be kind with yourself, treat each other well, take care.